This episode of Test Drive is made possible by RateMyEV.com.
Welcome back to PRN Test Drive. I'm James, and this week I've been testing a vehicle that some have called the Lyriq Jr. This is the 2025 Cadillac OPTIQ. Now I've got it here in its Sport 1 trim, which isn't the top level that Cadillac has to offer for the OPTIQ, but I will tell you right now that this is still a very high quality luxury EV experience. And honestly, the Cadillac OPTIQ has pleasantly surprised me. I think comparing this thing or calling this thing the Lyriq's little brother is pretty fair because it does do a lot of the same things that the Lyriq does, just in a smaller form factor. But it surprised me because it had a lot more room in the trunk and in the rear than I was ever expecting. Now, of course, smaller form factor means lower price point. So this is gonna run you about $65,000 as you see it here. If you go up to the Lyriq in its Sport 1 trim, that's about $75,000. So let's say, you don't have that extra 10 grand, but you still want a high quality luxury EV experience. You really do get it here from this Cadillac OPTIQ. I'm a fan of it. I love the Lyriq. We absolutely love the Lyriq here on PRN Test Drive. It does ride a little better than the OPTIQ. It of course has more storage and it's a lot faster than the OPTIQ, but if those things don't matter to you, then the OPTIQ is an excellent choice and it also saves you a bit of money. So let's take this thing on the road, but first, let me tell you all about it. All right, so taking a look under the hood for the Cadillac OPTIQ Sport 1, we do not have a front trunk, but honestly, that is fine. I don't find myself using them anyways. We do have a dual motor all-wheel drive setup with an 85 kilowatt hour battery capable of 486 kilometers on a full charge. But I'm happy to report that I've seen well into the 500s here during my week with it, in warmer conditions, but still into the 500s is still pretty good for this relatively small Cadillac EV. It also can produce 300 horsepower and 354 pound-feet of torque. For the DC fast charging, it's rated for 150 kilowatts, so not that bad, but also not that fast. I think it kind of falls somewhere in the middle. For 2025, the Cadillac OPTIQ is still using the CCS charge port, but in 2026, there is an NACS coming, and it may also get a little bit more horsepower in 2026, so stay tuned for us to take a look at that one. All right, on the road now, 2025 Cadillac OPTIQ Sport 1 trim. So far this week, it has just been simple, convenient, and very luxurious. I mean, this interior just feels like a high quality product, and I think Cadillac have kind of nailed almost everything about the OPTIQ, and that's really good news. I mean, it drives impressively well, right? Like, it doesn't have as much speed as the Lyriq, it's definitely not as comfortable as the Lyriq, and it doesn't have the size of the Lyriq, but it has the essence of those things in a smaller, more affordable package, which I think is pretty decent. It does, of course, have beams. I mean, any EV does, so the OPTIQ is literally no exception. Let's give it some beams. Yeah. No problem overtaking slower traffic, zero hesitation, it's instant torque. It's not a thing that's gonna like take your breath away, put you back in your seat. The Lyriq probably has a little bit more of that, but you know what? I don't think you really need all that electric speed, because honestly, I've been in enough electric vehicles to this point where I can kind of tell you that that kind of instant torque and like that super snappy response is fun to show others, but it does kind of get old. You do get used to the pulls of it, and then it just becomes something you never do. In terms of ride quality, you do feel the rougher bumps a little more. I feel like the tuning here in the suspension, no matter what mode I'm in, does still kind of feel rough. I think it's a smaller body, a heavier platform still. I mean, we still have a decent amount of range in here, a decently sized battery, so there is, a little bit more weight in here, but, for the most part, it like rides quite well, unless you hit a huge pothole, in which Quebec, in some areas where I live, there are a ton, so obviously it did show there, but other than that, completely fine. Handling wise, it's going to be really good because you have that low center of gravity thanks to the battery being on the floor. The steering wheel size I feel like is perfect. It is in the bigger end, which I do enjoy. Of course, we have Super Cruise enabled here. It's only going to work on mapped out roads and highways, but still, I think there's a lot of coverage there. And if you have like a longer commute or you're in traffic or something, you can let Super Cruise just take over and completely drive for you in a straight line. It'll adjust to the person in front of you, no problem at all. And it's something I've really enjoyed, although I don't have a long commute. When I am on the highway or something with my daughter or whatever, and I need to quickly check back and see if she's all good, you know, it is kind of helpful just to have the vehicle taking care of things for you for those, you know, split 1 or 2 seconds that you got your back turned. Obviously, you don't want to, you know, completely turn your back. It does have sensors and stuff like that that will tell you, hey, look at the road. It vibrates your seat for the parking sensors, and also if somebody's in your blind spot, it vibrates your seat. It's a good attention getter. I do like it. I think some people will probably turn it off, because I have had some ghosting where it's like I'll have my turn signal on, there'll be absolutely nothing there and nothing going on when I'm at a stop sign, and you know, maybe it picked up a leaf or something. So the sensors are very sensitive, I would say, or it's just something with my model here that's a little weird, but I have had, like, you know, it go off randomly and I'm like, okay. But other than that, perfect system. I do really enjoy using it. One pedal driving is also very nice. I have this little paddle here on my left hand where I can increase and make full regeneration if I squeeze it. And you can actually come to a full stop with just this left-hand side paddle, which is really cool. And I think a lot of GM products now have it. And I just like it. Say you just need a little bit more stopping power, you can kind of give a squeeze with your hand. And I've actually used it a couple times this week just to see how it performs. And it does give you the max regen. But for the most part, I'm using one pedal driving and I am pretty happy with it. Another little rip. Why not? Let's go. And you get those little noises, of course, the EV noises that you can turn off, but honestly, I don't mind them. It gives the OPTIQ a little bit of character, so can't hate on it for that. So overall, the driving, simple and luxurious, and just get a note of how quiet it is here. Get a note of how well you can hear me versus, you know, a more affordable EV where I don't feel like noise isolation is going to be a top priority. But in something like a Cadillac and a luxury option like this, it is very much a top level priority, and it is quiet. So in terms of interior, like I've been saying all video, I was pleasantly surprised by the amount of room in here, because this is a smaller package than the Lyriq, than its bigger brother. But surprisingly, didn't make a difference for me at all. I've been able to do everything I think I could have done with the Lyriq. Maybe you can fit a little less things in the trunk, but still, like, tons of backseat room for my daughter and my wife, tons of front seat room for me up here. I don't have to really adjust anything to make it work. It just works. There's just simply enough space for everybody. The seats are really nice. This headrest feels like an absolute pillow. Really good. It's got massage. There is ventilated seating available, but on my Sport 1 trim, I only have the heated seat option, but I've also got a heated steering wheel. So in terms of the winter driving, this is all-wheel drive, of course, so that's going to be no problem. You'll survive winter because you got your heated seats, heated steering, and all-wheel drive. 3 things that are quite important here for brutal winters in Canada, or at least in my part of Canada. Now, both the driver and the passenger seat are power adjustable, and you can also adjust the lumbar support with this little knob. Very cool. I have 3 seats, or I have 2 sets of memory seat settings right here. The passenger doesn't get any, but I think if you go up in trim with the OPTIQ, the passenger will get some, but honestly, that's not really an important feature for me anyways. I really love this white mixed with these blue inserts. They've done such a good job at, like, mixing up the material from the dashboard to the door to the center console. It all looks different. This is not by no means a boring interior. It's actually a quite interesting interior. There's different types of blue. Like on the door, I've got like this nice soft feeling kind of blue carpet, and then, you know, for the underneath the infotainment display, it's like this plastic blue, and then you've got this really nice material here for the center console, and this is like kind of all in like a glass thing right on top of the center console. It all looks really premium, right? And I think that's really good for a Cadillac. I think Cadillac have nailed it. They stayed true to the brand while still offering something pretty competitive in terms of price. If you don't want something like, you know, a top-end Ioniq 5 with the max range and the ultimate package is right around the same price, if not a little bit more, than this Cadillac OPTIQ. So for those that are, you know, in the market for it, that have a budget for that, you're gonna get like a much better interior experience for me. I love this like one screen here where it shows me my gauge cluster. You can have the Google Maps built in because of course this is Android Automotive. So what that means is there's no Apple CarPlay or Android Auto available here. You're straight up just using the built-in stuff. I don't like it. I'll complain about it every time. I wish I had the choice, but they've done a really good job at implementing this. I'm a Google Maps user. I'm a Spotify user. Sometimes I'm a Waze user. Occasionally I'm an Apple Maps user, and if I was to own this thing, I'd have to kind of give up my Apple Maps, but whatever, I still have GPS, and it's built in. I can have the Google Maps screen right in front of my face, right in front of my eyes, just there with my speed limit and everything like that. So I have all of the tools here to kind of handle anything I need to do, and I think that's super important from any EV, and not just EV, from any vehicle. So that's why you're seeing a lot of the Cadillac stuff come out with this new one screen kind of thing with no Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. It sucks, yes. I don't think that's the way it should be, but they've done a great job at making a really responsive infotainment display, a really responsive gauge cluster, and kind of building it all in, packaging it really, really well to where if I'm going to be forced to use it, it's not actually that bad. I got to give it to them. It's not actually that bad. But I've also got high quality cameras here as well, 360-degree cameras, parking sensors, like I said. You've got like a little bit of ambient lighting here. I think it might get a bit better in the higher trims, or like I saw like there's one where there's like it detects your hand when you go into this little pocket here of storage underneath the infotainment display. I don't have that, so I think it might be a trim related thing, but still super, super high quality stuff. And it only gets better in terms of the OPTIQ if you want to spend a little bit more money. But I think this $65,000 version might be the sweet spot, just because you get the Google stuff, you get the responsive screens. I love this one screen. I love it. It looks so high quality. I also really like that a lot of stuff is controlled with this infotainment display, but one thing that is not controlled is the HVAC system. Obviously there is an app for it. I can swipe over, click climate, and I can control stuff from the screen if I want to, but I've got all of the buttons for my dual zone automatic climate control right here, right at my fingertips. No problem at all. I can turn on the heated seats button. The only thing that's a haptic feedback button is the steering wheel. So you've got like all your audio controls, cruise control, super cruise controls, all that stuff is going to be there, but you do have some little up and down switches for the volume control and cruise control. So still there, still okay. If we have to have one of our climate settings in the form of a touch button, I'm okay with that, because look, GM, Cadillac, they've done it right, and they've been doing it right, and they really deserve credit for that. One thing I will say though is for the glove box, I'll do it right now. It's a button. It's a button on the touch screen, not a physical button. So it doesn't fire out like a rocket, so it's not gonna like destroy your passenger's kneecaps, which is really good. But there's a button. So if it fails, if the screen fails, I don't know how you're getting in there. Hopefully you don't have anything valuable. Anyways, if you do want to control the infotainment display without actually touching it and messing up your really nice one screen here, you do have this nice premium feeling dial here with a bunch of quick access buttons, as well as another volume tuner. You've got two cup holders as well. That looks really, really good. This whole area, like I said, looks very nice. You've got a little wireless phone charger here as well. You've got a little bit of storage inside the center console. It's all white. I love the way they designed it. It's designed like thoughtfully, and like in a space where there's space. Like it's really going to be hard to show you this on camera, like how much space there actually is back here, in the back seat and in the trunk. But trust me, go look at one in person if you're seriously in the market for one of these things, because they have a ton of room. I am not joking. And look, we've also got this fixed pane kind of glass roof. Looks really, really good. My daughter loves it. She likes looking up at the lights or the airplanes, flying by as we're driving along the highway. She loves it. I love it for that. So no, really, I'm finding it very hard to find things to complain about the OPTIQ or to tell you that the Lyriq is better because it's worth more money. And usually that's how the maths. Like if something is worth more money, most of the time it's more worth it, right? Like it's got more stuff. But this does everything the Lyriq does, sort of, in a smaller package. So if you can't swing for the Lyriq, please don't feel bad that you're going for the OPTIQ, because you are getting a really, really nice package interior and a really good driving experience.
Before we continue on with James's review, I want to mention our sponsor for our electric vehicle coverage here on Test Drive, and that's RateMyEV.com. Not only is it the best place for you to research your next electric vehicle purchase by seeing how real owners have experienced their vehicles, whether it's good or bad, but it is the place that you can go as an EV owner to share your thoughts on the vehicle that you might have purchased or leased, whether, again, it's good or bad. With tons of information and tons of questions that are asked, you can get a pretty thorough idea of which electric cars you might want to consider and which ones you might want to avoid. So again, big thanks to RateMyEV.com for sponsoring this episode of Test Drive and our continued coverage on electric vehicles here on Test Drive.
So next, let's take a look at the Cadillac OPTIQ's exterior styling. Let's start off with this paint color. It is in fact orange on camera. It looks a little bit red. In the sun, it looks a little bit more red, but trust me, I'm usually confused on these things. This is absolutely orange. And look, a lot of people have told me this week they love the OPTIQ, they just don't love this orange color, and I get it. But after spending a week with it, it's actually starting to grow on me. I do kind of like it. And again, it does have a lot of that Lyriq inspiration, just smaller. You still get really nice daytime running LEDs. The entire front grille lights up, looks really premium, and just looks kind of new age EV Cadillac. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. It does look like a premium product on the outside. You've got parking sensors. I've got a 360-degree camera here. Even knowing it's a small vehicle, it still makes your life easier having those sensors everywhere. Looking at it from the side profile, I do like the mix of the black top with the orange bottom, and then it's kind of sandwiched in between because you have also the black trim that goes around. It is kind of like this piano black trim that hopefully ages well. I couldn't tell you, only for a week, so perfectly fine. Right next to me right here is actually the charge port. Opens automatically. It doesn't do that thing where it slides down like you see on the Blazer. So I do like that. I have a little bit more confidence that this will last longer than that. You also have your keyless entry doors. They kind of pop out of the side. Very high quality. When you walk away, they'll lock. When you walk up, they unlock. So very standard stuff. I do like that you can see kind of like a decal design on the side. That does look pretty cool. Also, I love the tinting in the back window. It's very dark. I don't necessarily want people looking in my back seat and stuff like that. So I love how dark it is. And then when you move on to the back, again, you kind of get that Lyriq inspiration. You get that kind of light bar that goes down the two sides for the tail lights. Looks really, really good. And it's an automatic tailgate, and you got a ton of trunk space. I opened the trunk and I was like, okay, here we go. This is gonna be, you know, the pain point. No, it isn't. Trust me, there is a ton of trunk space. I could fit my stroller, I could fit a grocery run, and probably both at the same time. And that's really important as somebody who has a family, and it's not compromising the rear space. Cadillac has done an excellent job at making this EV smaller, but still as practical as possible by offering as much room and storage space as they possibly could squeeze out. They've done a phenomenal job, and I am thoroughly impressed by just that feature alone. So overall, look, I think the Lyriq does still look better than the OPTIQ if we were to compare the two, but if I wanted to save $10,000, I would be extremely happy with going the way of the OPTIQ because it just looks really, really good. And honestly, the looks have grown on me, and just how usable it is, that is its main point right here. I'm a fan. All right, so let's wrap everything up in a nice package and give you my final thoughts for the Cadillac OPTIQ. So I guess the question I haven't answered all video and that I've sort of been asking is, which one is the better option? Which one would I take? I've spent a week with the Lyriq in its Sport 2 trim, so I got a little bit more nicer stuff than I did have in the OPTIQ, but which one would I go with? In terms of overall driving and, you know, performance and stuff like that, and just the design wise and the space, I think I'm still very much a Lyriq guy. But if you talk about money, like if I have to choose based off of budget solely, then you are getting such a great thing in the OPTIQ, and is the OPTIQ every day, all day, because it is so close to the Lyriq that calling it its little brother, its junior, its whatever you want to call it, right? You know, brother 3 times removed, whatever. It's so close, and to me anyways, this is my opinion, by the way, it's not fact, and GM didn't, you know, tell me to say anything, but like, you know, they are very close. They do so many things well, and so many things similarly well, that like I'm just a fan. We love the Lyriq here on Pure on Test Drive. I think we've said that a bunch of times. We've reviewed the Lyriq a bunch of times. We've taken the Lyriq on road trips, on like short commutes. We've done general reviews. We've done everything you could do on the Cadillac Lyriq. And so this thing in the OPTIQ is sort of like the Lyriq. And if you can't afford it, man, the OPTIQ is still very, very nicely packaged. And honestly, like in the range of like some of my favorite EVs that exist. And I am surprised to be saying that, but because Cadillac have nailed it so well, it feels like a Cadillac, it rides like a Cadillac. The sound system in here is phenomenal. That Dolby Atmos system they have, it's so quiet. It's so smooth most of the time, unless you drive in Quebec roads and you hit like a street that hasn't been renovated in like 14 years or, you know, since the dawn of time. That's the only exception. but it's still like most of the time it rides really, really smoothly. And I love the packaging here. I love what they've done. I hope they continue to do it. I hope that, you know, there should be a, you know, fully blown, if you've got the budget, you're on baller status, let's go, you know, let's get ourselves a maxed out Lyriq. But if you can't, and you still like the Cadillac brand, you still want to get into something that's, you know, relatively luxurious, well, here you have the OPTIQ, and you will not be disappointed. I struggle to find bad things to say about it. I really, really do. I think that in terms of Cadillac's price point, it's competitive, it's expensive. Yes, I know you're gonna tell me that in the comments. Absolutely, I agree with you. 65 grand is a lot to spend on an EV or on a vehicle in general, but I do see a lot of them in my area. Most of the new Cadillac EVs I'm seeing is like, I'd say a good 70% OPTIQ, and the rest are Lyriq, and I've probably seen 2 IQs with the Escalade. So that's it. I mean, that's it. All the other ones is Chevrolet is really dominating with their Equinox and the Blazer. Those things are everywhere here in Quebec, or at least in my area of Quebec. So yeah, they've done well for themselves, Cadillac, in terms of the OPTIQ. People notice and people are driving it, despite what you might think of the price. So that's going to do it for me and this Cadillac OPTIQ. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. If you don't see the hype button, just leave us a like. It really does a lot. I always say this. I say this on my channel. I'll say it right here. I don't want your money. I just want your likes. I just want your support. That goes so far in the YouTube community, in the YouTube game. You have no idea how much a couple of likes can do for a video. So if you do that, if you've enjoyed it, if you made it this far, please like this video. With that being said, I'll see you next week. See you next car. Take care.